N5 arrived and brought a whole new load of surprises for us all. But not all of them were good, especially if your army got deleted. Welcome to the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and today we are going to talk about something that quite a few people in the community and our members have raised to us, and that is, with the new edition of Infinity N5 dropping, a whole raft of armies went. They got removed from the game. So we're going to talk about that. But first, Happy New Year, first video of 2025. Apologies for the greatness of my absence. I wasn't being lazy. Unfortunately, I've been ill at the start of this year, ended up in hospital. All fine now, but yeah, a bit of a hairy start to the year, so a little bit behind on videos. Apologies. Normal service should be resumed now. If you want to support the channel, if you want to help us out, then please like, share, subscribe, because it's becoming a member or becoming a patron. We've got loads of new stuff coming up, finally. So yeah, please join and help us grow. As I say, this particular topic was suggested by members of the community, members of our community, and it's something that I've seen kicking around online as well. People are not happy with the fact that a number of armies disappeared. Now, when I say a number of armies, we're talking about the Terran Capitoline Army, the Shock Army of Aconsumento, Varuna, all four Pano. Oh yeah, we got hit bad with Ariadne. They lost Meravisions, they lost Caledonia. NA2 lost Starco from memory. They lost Spiral Co. And what was the other one? Foreign Company. So that just off the top of my head, all of those boom out of existence. Now let's start with me, N2, N3, part of N4 actually. Shock Army player. That was my main force, and a really bad habit of playing it to death, selling it, and then buying it again. And then it went out of catalogue, so it became prohibitively expensive, and I was thinking about maybe N5 or buy back in. Decided not to. This was fortuitous. But a lot of people out there picked up armies for N5 that subsequently got nuked. Inside my own community, there's a couple of players that I know, there's a lot of players that I know, that had Neo-Terrans, they had Shock Army, they had, yeah, I know one guy, Caledonians was just coming on stream for him, and Meravisions, and they're just gone. And it sucks. Let's just take a minute to acknowledge the fact that that is rough. These miniatures, they're not cheap, especially if you're buying them secondhand, especially if they're out of catalogue. This was a very, very expensive hobby, and hundreds of euros, pounds, dollary dues of your money useless. I want to talk about why I think that happened, or some reasons that it may have done. I want to talk about what we can do about it, and I want to talk about the bit of this that I think was especially badly done and why. So, yeah. You guys have my sympathy. If you lost armies in this, it's rough and it sucks. But why did it happen? Why? What possible reasons could it happen? I think the first and foremost obvious one is that Corvus Belli is a business. They are a company and they're there to make money. And these particular armies have been kicking around for a while. They're not... The miniatures weren't in catalogue, they weren't going to make any money from them. They could have brought them back, but we'll discuss why that wasn't necessarily a good idea in a second. But for the moment they weren't in catalogue, so there was no real way for them to make money off of this. They're just going to create a whole load of profiles which are going to bloat the system, because we're going to end up with more stuff that they can't generate revenue from. Now, don't forget Corvus Belli, free rules, free army builder. We've got lots of free stuff they give us. Where they make their money predominantly is in miniatures. So if they can't make money on those miniatures, I can kind of see why they wouldn't necessarily want to support them anymore. There comes a point, you know, all the way through N4, most of N4, these armies, apart from Varuna, were out of catalogue to some extent. They haven't made money on them for a while. They're not going to make money on them now. But they could invest hours and hours and hours redeveloping the profiles, rebuilding them, getting them N5 ready, and then throwing them out for free. Now, we can have the conversation about, oh, they're just making money, it's GW all over again. It's not. Let's just get that out of the way. It's not. The only way they make money, as discussed, pretty much is with minis. No mini sales, no Corvus Belli, ultimately no Infinity. I don't think any of us want that. So there has to be a degree of, yeah, I'm not happy about it. No, I don't like it. No, it's not great. But I get it. Now you can then say, but hang on, we just got Kestrel. Kestrel came in for Pano. We've just got all the new stuff coming in for JSA. You're completely right. New models, new scale, new profiles, new everything, which kind of takes over the place. It's nowhere near the volume, but it takes over the place of these removed units. But it's not the same volume. And that leads me to my second point. Pretty much all of the armies that were removed are older N2 type territory. They've been kicking around in the system for a while. The game has evolved, but they have fundamentally remained the same. Shock Army of Cemento is Vietnam in space. That is what they do. And they're a brick in a sock. There is no finesse to them. You swing the sock at your opponent until they stop, and then you keep going even if they've stopped. That is what Cemento do. There is no subtlety, there is no finesse, there is just violence. Bringing them up to N5 is going to need that all completely reworking because of the way the system functions now, because of the different rules, the different interactions, and the different other units that are in the game. They're dated, they're old. They're going to basically need a rewrite. There comes a point of wisdom where rather than saying, right, we're going to do Cemento again, we say, they're done. They're in the past, different part of the universe now, they're over there, they're still there, but they're that way. And here's Kestrel. Because when you look at Kestrel, Kestrel is very much, to my eyes, Neoterran Capital Line Army had a baby with Shock Army of Cemento, and that's what we end up with. There are elements of both in there. So there is the feel, there is the vibe of those two within that sectorial, but it's all new fluff, it's all new ideas, it's all new profiles, all new concepts, which gives them the freedom to do something completely new and completely in keeping with M5 and to push that forward without trying to drag a legacy concept through. And I get that. It moves the narrative forward, it moves the game forward. All of this is really good stuff from our perspective as gamers. It keeps things fresh, it keeps things interesting. But it does suck that your army got nuked. Let's be absolutely clear, it really does. But beyond that, we also need to consider the other point, which is that Corvus Belli doesn't just sell to us. They sell to stores, they sell to companies. And those stores and companies want to stock as much useful stuff from Corvus Belli as possible. Now, when you have so many factions with so many sub-factions with so many options inside of so many sub-factions, you end up with bloat. You end up with so many products these stores have to stock or run the risk of not having availability for wargamers, and we can be a really pernickety lot. We can be, we want it now! Why don't you have it on the shelf? I won't buy it then. So a large catalogue with all of these different armies in there is just going to make it harder for other retailers to buy in, because what they need to pick up is probably all of the starters, which is all of the, oh god, the investment, that initial buy-in becomes through the roof. This is not good. This is not, you're not going to get a lot of companies that are like, you know what, that sounds great, let's do that. That's just not going to happen. So trimming off some of the older concepted ones, the ones that are no longer produced, keeps things simpler with the volume in the catalogue, and makes it easier to onboard companies. You know, here are your starters. These are the main starters for these are the main factions. This is logical and understandable, and it is all corporate stuff, and we don't like, let's be honest, we don't like to think of this from a corporate stuff perspective. We don't want to be talking about the fact they need to make money from us. We don't want to be talking about the fact they need to charge us for this stuff, but they do. If they don't, if they can't, they stop. And it sucks from our perspective. I get it. And there's the whole argument, we can have that conversation about, well, they should have brought them along into N5. But again, that's investment time and energy and money spent on development of all these profiles for legacy stuff that's going to have to basically be rewritten. Bagmaries, they would work, I guess, in N5, but they would, I think, feel massively underpowered by comparison to the other options that are out there, unless they become dirt cheap, at which point they probably become overpowered. No, they can't sell it to us. They can't supply it. Stockists aren't going to hold it on the shelf because they can't get it anyway. I get it. And I'm disappointed. I'm gutted. Shock Army player, and a Neo-Terran player as well, and a Merivision player as well. It's disappointing that they're gone, but I get it. And that doesn't stop it sucking. But I think it will be, in the long term, for the health of Corvus Belli, for the health of Infinity, a good thing. Even though it sucks now. So what can we do? What can we do about this stuff? Thankfully, there are two options. If you've gone out and you have these armies, there are two things that you can do. The first is that, and the links are in the description below, there is an N4 wiki, there is an N4 army builder, so you can still play these in N4. Yeah, I know, it's N5 now, this is N4. That does mean that you're not going to be using the new N5 stuff. You won't be able to play against people with N5 units. I get all of that, I agree, that is not ideal. But this is an option to play those armies that you love the way that they were last usable and designed to be played in a version of Infinity. So you can do that. You can play those armies in that kind of legacy version of Infinity. It's not ideal because it's not N5, and you're going to have a smaller pool of people to play against, and over time that pool will drop off. There is a finite amount of time that will continue, but it is an option. And if you've just gone out and spent a lot of money on getting one of these armies, this is an option for you to play it the way it was meant to be played. The other option is the flexibility of Infinity to proxies. Take that army and proxy it something else. No, again, not ideal. But there's nothing to say that you can't take your Accordo, your Neo-Terran Capellan army, your Varuna, and make those Kestrel. Make those generic. As long as your opponent is clear on what's being proxied as what, yes, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes, it's going to be a lot of, yeah, that's actually this. I get that. But again, that will let you use your miniatures, which you've spent your time on, you've painted, you've bought, you've done all that investment into. You can get them on the table, you can play Infinity, and you can play N5. So you can play the current version against current opponents. You're just looking at a lot of good communication. This is actually this. Within the bounds of Corvus Belli's guidance on tournaments, that is completely acceptable. I think from a friendly casual perspective, I'd be surprised if somebody was like, no, you can't do it. I mean, there's going to be someone, but I'd be surprised if most players kind of took the view of, no, you can't use your toys because I don't like it. So you can still use them. You have the option to use them in N5 as proxy. You have the option to use them in N4, but that does require that extra work. So that option does exist. It is a choice. For all of that being said, I get it. I think there are good sound reasons for making the choice. But there are things that I am unhappy about in the way that this was done, specifically. We're going to do something that I'm not happy about doing, but we're going to do it. If we go back a year or so ago when the new version of AOS came out from GW, Age of Sigmar, they put out the bad news bomb. As the hype train for AOS started to move forward, they went, right, all of this stuff being removed. This is going from the game. And it was brutal. I mean, it was a massacre. The stuff that was actually removed from various armies. I think Stormcast were absolutely hammered. Entire armies got snuffed. It was a massacre. But what they did is they sat down and went, going. This is the thing that's happening. That's it. Comparatively, Corvus Belli, for the most part, most people found out when the videos announcing the changes to individual factions came out on YouTube. And it was kind of a, here's a bit of fluff, here's a bit of hype, and Panoceania has Svalaheimer, and it has Kestrel, and at the end of it, there was no Varuna, and there was no Terran Capitoline Army, and there was no Shock Army. They were gone. They'd just been removed. And then we went on with the hype. And don't forget, you can buy the new stuff. Guys, that didn't sit right with me. And it didn't sit right with a lot of the community, because people saw, I think Pano was one of the first ones, and people were like, whoa, these got nuked. They went, what the hell? I think it would have been better had Corvus Belli taken a moment and put a video out and said, right, in this edition, these specific factions, these specific sectorials are going. This is why they're going. We know it sucks. But with the way that it was done, it didn't feel like there was weight given to the impact that that has on people who've spent this time and this money on these miniatures. And yeah, I know, it's toy soldiers, but it's hundreds of euros, dollary-doos, pounds of your money, and it is hours of your life. You know, some people are spending 10 plus hours on an individual miniature, more. These are hundreds of hours of people's lives. And they're gone. Not so much as an acknowledgement of that, no, not so much as an apology. This is why. And I think that would have been better. I think that would have avoided a lot of the frustration that people felt in certain circles about this. If they'd have said, look, hang on, N5's coming, but the first thing you need to know, these are going, and this is why. That level of engagement, that level of respect for the community, I think would have gone a long way. I think it would have been helpful. And I think a lot of people that are now feeling quite bitter towards Corvus Belli, and there are several of you out there, I hear you. I do. I get it. I think it would have taken the sting out. They'd have known beforehand. They'd have had the opportunity to be like, okay, this is why, rather than just, it's gone, haha, look, new things. That's not how it should have been done, in my opinion. That's what I think. So yeah, if you are one of the people that's affected by this, I am really sorry, and that is really sucky. It's not the first time. I mean, we saw this before. The extra got nuked between N2 and N3. We've had individual units disappear. Kodali used to be in Yu Qing before she went to the combined army. Tony Makiara, we waited a very long time for that miniature, and she turned up when she died. So Corvus Belli has done this before with individual invincibles for Yu Qing. Not Invincible Army, invincibles. We've seen units, we've seen smaller armies or smaller sectorials get removed, but this is the first time it's been such a heavy cull, and it's a shame. It is a shame. But I think overall it will be for the good, as I say. So what reason do you think Corvus Belli made these choices? Is there something that I've missed? Are there any other things that you think would be useful to use these new, or these old discontinued miniatures for? And how do you think it was handled? What's your view on how CB let the community know this and how they communicated that? Was that done in the right way, or would you have done it a different way? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm completely wrong? Let me know in the comments. But for now, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.